Welcome back to Triple Natures, everybody. Today we are going to be introducing the nature of saucer versus platter, which is on pair with reactive versus proactive and deferrable versus deadline. As always, every personality has access to both sides of every nature, and how you develop within your personality can make a difference in how you express a given nature. On the left here, we have the saucer personalities. Saucer, of course, refers to the small plate you might find underneath a teacup. Platter, on the other hand, is a very large plate. This nature is all about how much tasks or how large of a workload does a person have. The saucer personalities are those who generally should have a smaller amount of workload. This is because if they have too large of a workload, or if they acknowledge all at once too much for them to do, then they can get overwhelmed and shut down and stop working. It doesn't take a lot of tasks to motivate a saucer personality. Generally, just one thing will do it. That means that if they have even one task, they will keep working until they have no tasks, which is when they will lack motivation because they're done. And this means that saucer personalities will generally finish everything that they have on their plate if they are committed to doing what it is that they've been assigned or have chosen to do. This might seem as though saucer personalities don't accomplish very much then, but this isn't quite true. Saucer personalities can still be highly productive and do a lot of stuff, but it's just a delicate balance of always seeing that there's things to be done without acknowledging an overwhelming amount. If you are managing yourself as a saucer personality, then it might be wise to say, plan out the beginning half of your day, and then having accomplished those number of tasks, plan out the second half of your day. That way, by acknowledging only part of the work that needs to be done in a day, you don't overwhelm yourself. Similarly, if you're a boss in a company and there's a saucer personality beneath you, instead of giving them all the tasks that need to be done in an entire week, you might then distribute it day to day. That way they only see their workload for a given day and don't get quite so overwhelmed. Platter personalities, on the other hand, if they only have a few number of tasks, then they are not motivated to do them. They need to have a lot of tasks in order to find the motivation to work. It sort of inspires a sense of, oh my goodness, there's so many things that need to be done, I better get going. This has an interesting consequence then, that they do not finish everything on their plate. This is because if ever they were to get close to finishing everything, they would suddenly discover that they don't have very many things on their plate left to do, and therefore they would lack the motivation. When a platter personality doesn't have a lot of things to do, you will oftentimes discover procrastination or trivialization of the last things. It's sort of an idea of like, well, there's only a couple things to do. I could easily do them, and so it gets brushed aside, and then they might not even end up doing them ever. This doesn't necessarily mean that platter personalities never finish anything, but they need something to do beyond the current task that they're working on so as to allow them to finish their current task. It's good to always have a rolling workload for platter personalities, except for, of course, times when they need to set aside work entirely, such as when they're on vacation or something like that. These natures are not designed to put a person under a constant workload strain. It's just to acknowledge how it's best to manage their workload when they are in a work mindset. As an alternative to always having a rolling workload for a platter personality, another approach that can be taken is to give platter personalities lots of tasks to be accomplished with an inherent acknowledgement that they're not going to finish all of them, and to just build that into the tasks that you give them. Sort of say to yourself, I want productivity out of this person, but I don't necessarily care what sorts of tasks they accomplish, so I'll just give them lots of stuff and then I'll sort out the things that they don't do later. An important thing to note about saucer versus platter is that which personality you are individually will make a great impact on what sorts of tasks you will take up. As an example, ENFP and INFJ are highly intuitive feeling personalities, as well as being high platter personalities. This means that although they are inclined to taking on a lot of tasks, the task load will probably involve a lot of abstraction and a lot of social interaction, a lot of people work, as opposed to ESTJs and ISTPs who also take on a lot of tasks, but it's more of a hands-on sort. When a saucer personality and a platter personality interact with each other, frustrations can arise. Consider this interaction: a saucer parent and a platter child interacting. The saucer parent, being kind, gives the platter child not very many tasks to do, because of course they're a child and they're not going to be given a large workload. The platter child, not being very motivated by this smaller workload, ends up not doing the tasks, or not very much of it. This frustrates the parent, and perhaps the child is told off or punished in some way. But perhaps the parent is very kind and very generous and very patient, and so they decide that the problem was that there was too many tasks for the child, right? They got overwhelmed, they didn't do what they needed to. And so the saucer parent, being kind, gives the platter child even fewer tasks the next time. This, of course, doesn't necessarily mean that the solution is always to give your child a whole bunch of tasks, but you can kind of see how that dynamic can play out in problematic ways. And of course, the flip side can be just as bad. If a platter is in a position to give tasks to a saucer, well, guess what? The platter is going to give a lot of tasks to the saucer, and the saucer is going to be overwhelmed, not understanding that as a platter personality, when they give all these tasks to the saucer, they're not really expecting the saucer personality to accomplish all of them quickly or even at all, but the saucer thinks that they are supposed to accomplish all of them, and it can be very overwhelming. If a proper mixture of saucer and platter personalities can be found and put into a company, then of course this is very good because the platter personalities can kind of take on the heavier workload, but it's the workload that they're most suited to, and it's done with the more relaxed mentality of, I'm just going to sort of do whatever it is that I'm going to do, and so long as I'm accomplishing a lot of stuff, it's perfectly fine. And then the saucer personalities are there to pick up the slack and finish up things and be in key positions that actually do need to be done, and thus a proper and healthy balance can be achieved between the two. I would love to hear what your thoughts are about this nature. Feel free to drop a comment. Also, if you want to help me in my research, please reach out to me. Till next time.